Welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast with Scott McKenzie. Scott is a passionate industry professional dedicated to transferring cutting-edge, industry-focused innovations and trends while highlighting the men and women who keep the world moving. So put on your hard hat, grab your work boots, and let's go.
All right, once again, thank you very much for joining Industrial Talk, and thank you for your continued support. A platform dedicated to industrial professionals all around the world because you're bold, brave, you dare greatly, you solve problems, you collaborate, you're making my life better, and you're making the world a better place. In the hot seat, Margherita Ferragatta. IDT Solution is the company, and we're talking about IoT in action. They're doing it. They're doing it in the automotive space. That is what they're doing. We're also brought to you by Arduino. Go out to arduino.cc, find out more. They're the original open source IoT solutions. Go out to arduino.cc/pro and find out more. You will not be disappointed. Let's get cracking with the conversation. Yeah, it was a good conversation. We're going to make this intro very quick because Margheritas she was delivering some really great insights into how they're deploying, how they're using the Arduino platform in their business. And they work with some very, let's just say Italian brand automotives. And they're using it in the world of IoT and being able to truly collect that data, track that data, do things that are extra special. But anyway, she was just absolutely fantastic. Here's her interview. Margherita, welcome to Industrial Talk. Thank you very much for joining and finding time in your busy schedule to talk to the best listeners in the whole world. How are you doing today?
Hi, Scott. Very excited to be here, actually.
It's pretty cool, man. Listeners, we've been having a great conversation offline. You had not been a part of that conversation, but she's got a lot of pepper and she's got a lot of passion on what we're going to be talking about and what we're going to be talking about before, and then we're going to make sure that we level set. We're going to be talking a little bit about the real-world adoption of Arduino technologies with the IDT Solution team. And but before we get into that, and we expand upon that, Margherita Ferragatta.
That's correct. You said it perfectly.
Ferragatta. Give us a little background on who you are.
Yeah. So, I'm Margherita. I'm 23 years old. And I didn't tell you that before, actually.
No. And I know that Stefano's right there. I'm picking myself off the table. I just can't. That is fantastic. All right, continue.
I'm a software developer, and I graduated in engineering at the Polytechnic of Turin just last year, actually. But I've been working in IDT since I'm 20, and so I work there as a software developer, but we actually do many other things, just other than just writing software. Yeah. So we started using the Arduino technology back to 2016 when still not even the Arduino Pro business unit existed at the time. So we just started with an Arduino Uno. It was me and my dad we were just playing with Arduino. And then at some point he comes out and says to me why hasn't anybody ever used in industry an Arduino technology? Why do people not use open source? And we were like, okay, I cannot answer that. I do not know how to answer that, but let's try it. So we tried it, and our customers were very, very scared about our choice. It was really hard to convince them to let us try this technology and this open source technology in their industrial plants, because just they were so scared. They hear the word open source, they just focus on the word open, and they're like, okay, no, it's not secure for us to use it in an industrial plant. Yeah.
See, that's interesting. I'm going to ask one question because I have to ask. You're 23. What made you get all real passionate about? I mean, you're right at the beginning. Well, IoTs, data collection, PLCs have been around forever, and we've been working in that. But why are you passionate about this?
Actually, at the beginning, I didn't realize I was passionate about it I just was learning some stuff on my own. And then at some point at the age of 16, 17, I learned that my dad was actually doing the same stuff at work. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't know about that. So we started getting to talk, and I got involved into his job. I got involved into Arduino. Actually, the way with Arduino is pretty weird because it was random, totally random. We were at a fair and we were coming back home on a train, and we heard a man talking on the other side of the seat, talking about this Arduino technology. And we were like, wait, we use it. We use Arduino. Who's this man? And he was one of the main leaders at the time of Arduino. And so we were like, wait, we use your technology and we use it in the industrial field. And he got so excited because he got surprised because he didn't know that people were actually using at the time, back in 2017, they were using this technology in the field.
Wow. See, that is so cool. And what's interesting from my perspective is that, yeah, it's open source, but doesn't mean it's less secure, right? It doesn't mean that it's not going to deliver on what it needs to deliver. In fact, I'm of the opinion that it delivers more for less, and I think it has a tremendous value proposition. And everywhere I go to the conferences and events, and I mention Arduino, everybody's like, oh, I know Arduino.
Yeah.
Like, okay. So yeah, it's an amazing conversation. So Arduino Pro. Okay. So we got it. So now you're in, how do you, so you're saying, hey, I've got this IoT solutions. And of course, IoT is like this huge whatever now. Take us through sort of the reason why all of a sudden it's just, why is this important? Why is selecting Arduino for your deployments important?
Yeah, okay. So first thing that came to us in mind when we started using open source was the fact that it was making us more effective, making us faster, and less expensive on the market. And this is good because clients have a budget. They have a very strict delivery times. When they give you a project and you get an order from them, you also have to specify a specific delivery time. And it's not optional. You have to be on time. And we realized that sometimes with standard technologies that were mentioned in our clients' protocols that we had to follow at the beginning, like Beckhoff or Siemens, the delivery times were, and actually are, huge. Like to build an entire automation, an entire machine, because that's what IDT does. We build an entire automation for industrial plants from scratch, from the mechanical project to the electrical project to the software and hardware and everything. And but we realized that with standard technology, sometimes our suppliers' delivery times average between 40 to 46 weeks. So imagine having to tell a client that you have that kind of delivery time from your supplier. They do not care that it's your supplier's fault and not your fault. It's still always your fault. Whereas we realized that with Arduino, yeah, that's our problem. Whereas we realized that with Arduino, it's just it's so much easier. Also because of the partnership we developed with them, but our delivery times with them average between 4 to 6 weeks, which is still above average.
So there were three components that you mentioned in your conversation: effectiveness, faster, dealing with time, and cost. So help the listener understand, what do you mean by effective? Just sort of, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, okay. So effectiveness means also the fact that first of all, they give you a hardware that is ready. And you can find everything you want online to develop, to work on the hardware, to write the firmware and the software parts. The great thing about open source is also, I think, is the great community that you can find online. If you have a problem, many times another person has already solved that problem for you, and you can just find it on the internet. So that's what's great about it, because you can, Yeah, we can just focus more on our code, on the software part, but we do not have to spend so much time thinking about it. If we have a problem, you do not have to contact them directly or to pay to improve something in the development tool. They give you ready-to-use libraries. You can just modify them and make changes on them if you just want to use them in another way. If you find a bug, you do not have to call maybe like Siemens and tell them, we have a problem on your development tool, let's just wait 3 months that they solve it, and then you have paid a license. Whereas the thing that is good about open source is that you do not have to pay a license for everything you have to build. You do not have to specifically buy their own hardware if you want to integrate something. For example, just to mention a real thing that happens to us, that sometimes robot protocols of communications, like ABB robots, they do not have maybe the same protocol that is good to communicate to an electronic board or a PLC. Even with the Arduino PLCs, this happens, but it's not a problem because you can buy just any gateway online that interacts with the robots and translates the robot protocol into a protocol that is easily understandable by an Arduino. Whereas if you use a standard and proprietary software and hardware and PLC, you have to buy a license for everything you want to integrate, and you have to buy their own hardware. So if I want to change protocol of communication, I have to buy another hardware, I have to buy another license. So imagine the delivery times, how much they extend actually.
See, this is so interesting because I hear what you're saying. I understand the 4 to 6 weeks from a faster implementation, and that community that allows you to sort of deal. Are you obligated as a partner, implementer? If you find bugs, do you report it to the community and just say, "Hey, we found this sort of code or whatever"? How do you deal in the open source world?
We do that, definitely. If we find bugs, we interact with the community online. We try to solve things in libraries, but the fact that we are partners with Arduino also allows us to have direct contact with them. Like one of our guys recently found a small bug in one of their libraries, and we were able just to be in touch with them and contact them, and they solved it immediately. So we interact directly with them, but sometimes it's also useful to interact with the community online for if you have a specific problem on a project that is not related to any kind of library, but you just want to copy someone else's code and integrate it in yours just to be like smooth.
See, that is so interesting. Listeners out there, just so that you understand the seriousness of these solutions, IDT Solution works with some Italian car manufacturers. You can fill in the blank. And they're very serious about their precision and perfection. So Italian car manufacturers, they use IDT Solution and the Arduinos. So that just sort of speaks to also the security component, right? So it's open. So you're having communications. There's a serious security component to it, and it is protecting these connected assets, correct? Okay, back to what you were talking about, that auto manufacturer that exists in Italy.
Yeah, this one we mentioned because one of our projects was actually for Maserati, for the plastic components of a Maserati.
Yes.
So, and we developed the whole infrastructure of one of the cells in their production line. So in this case, for example, this was a gluing cell, which was with our ABB robot communicating directly with an Arduino PLC, and it was gluing these plastic pieces together and bringing them around and then putting them on a conveyor, and so that they were just continuing the process in the production line.
In that use case, is there a quality component that they're also tracking when the gluing, or is it just more just the movement of the glued product?
Yeah, everything follows the industry 4.0 requirements. So there is the gluing part. So the practical part of the robot does, but there is also data saving, and the Arduino PLC communicates with a user interface that we develop entirely on our own. So from the back end to the front end part. And all the data is stored on a database in the industrial plant server. So everything is is saved, is tracked, and is also certified, because sometimes people say that just because it's open source, indeed, it cannot be secure, it cannot be certified, and they're wrong, because obviously we do not certify our machines and our automations ourselves. We call like external people that certify them. So,
and any auto manufacturer will be very keenly focused on making sure that those connected assets are properly secure. So it just is. So don't fret over the fact that it's not secure and it's open. What I hear and what I see is that here's a solution that's fast to market, cost effective, right? And it has this whole security component to it, and then finally, it's reliable. I mean, I've seen Arduino Pro assets or devices out in farming environments, which are just absolutely grueling on anything, but they're out there, they're hopping, they're making things happen. I love it. Give us another use case that would be a good application for what you're talking about.
This one is pretty cool. The one that I'm gonna mention now was also for a big sportive Italian car brand. And in this case, in this production line, we had two robots with the two Arduino PLCs. So it was the two robots were interacting one with the other through the Arduino PLCs. And it was we call it pick and place automation, because what the robot does, it picks up some pieces. In this case, they were battery cells for a hybrid car. The first robot picks the pieces up. It brings from a conveyor. It brings them to a first station where electrical tests were carried out, and then it puts the pieces on its right side on the second conveyor. And what the second robot does is that somehow, and then I'm gonna say how later, it picks the batteries up from the second conveyors, brings them to a second station, and other tests are carried out. So the cool thing and the very difficult thing was not only that each Arduino PLC handled all the sensors, all the communication, and all the movements of its own station and its own robot, because it was two robots, two PLCs, but also we had to make the two robots communicate one with the other. So how did we do that? We decided that one of the Arduinos had to act as a cross-link between the memories of the two robots. So the first Arduino was storing all the data of the paths followed by the two robots, so that the second robot knew when the first robot had finished, and it could pick the places up, the pieces up. So yeah, it was sometimes people just see it as a maker's thing, but actually this is also another application and another way of using Arduino boards. So I understand why Arduino built like the Arduino Pro Business Unit, because it's really a cool market where to go.
So in that particular use case, did the client come to you and say, hey, I need to have this ability to be able to use with these two robots and be able to, and because we see a value, how did that conversation go?
Yeah, no, not even that. They come to us with a budget. They say, so I have to integrate my production line that does this, that, and that. I need to carry out these tests. They do not tell you how. They just tell you that they have to do some pieces per minute. And you have to invent something just like from scratch. So you start thinking like, how can I do that? And then you think, okay, maybe an operator cannot be that fast. So you have to put a robot and you have to use a PLC that handles all the sensors and all the communication. And then you have to project also the station, maybe where the tests are carried out or where the pieces do something yourself. So we do everything from scratch. They just give you the idea and what they need, and you have to build everything.
God, that's so cool. You do cool stuff. You know that, right?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We like going to work. Like we are all very young because you have, I think, in a way, and that's not an insult for old people, but I think sometimes you have to be young to do this job.
Stefano, she just said I'm old.
But no, I was not talking about you, definitely. I hope other people didn't feel insulted by this.
No, it was, and I'm I'll digress. I'll go off on a tangent. I think that that youthful thinking within solving problems is critical, especially today. For whatever reason, we are venturing into some really massive innovation, right? And there's a speed, there's a velocity, and I think that it takes that youthful eye to say, no, just go this way, do this, and then do it effectively. Just because that's just a part of it, Don't ask me, Scott McKenzie, 61-year-old guy, to try to be nimble sometimes. I just like having the conversation. And I was like, hey, that's great, that's cool stuff.
But well, I mean, I think so it's cool whatever age someone has that they get how much this progress is important, because like mainly in the automotive field, which is our main field of production, they have very strict protocols, so it's even hard for them to trust us and to tell us, okay, you can use a new technology. And even if you think like it's crazy, the automotive field should be one of the most advanced ones, whereas they just stick to this very protocols. But if you don't move from them, so where is progress?
No, you're absolutely right. But you're making a dent in it, so that's really important stuff. As we wrap up, how do people get a hold of you, Margherita?
Well, you can find us on our webpage, but also on the Instagram. We are very active. We have a really cool community that follows us, and I must say that my colleagues make really fun stuff on Instagram. So,
yes.
And
there's a cool factor here. You are absolutely wonderful.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. All right, listeners, we're going to have all the contact information for Margherita Ferragatta out on Industrial Talk, along with everything that you need to know about her. Reach out to her, because that's IDT Solution without an S. Don't put an S on there. Don't. Remove that S from Solution. All right. Thank you very much for joining Industrial Talk. We will wrap it up on the other side, so stay tuned.
You're listening to the Industrial Talk Podcast Network.
Well, that was a great conversation with Margherita. All of their contact information will be out, of course, at industrialtalk.com. It is great to see how they are positively using the Arduino platform, the devices, to improve the automation of many of these auto manufacturers. It's pretty incredible. The future is bright. So all the contact information for Margherita will be out there on Industrial Talk. Again, we are building a platform. We want you to be involved. We want you to be engaged. We want you to begin being a part of the ecosystem. Just reach out to me. Go out to industrialtalk.com, and you'll be talking to me, just because I want to talk to you. All right, be bold, be brave. Dare greatly. Hang out with Margherita. You're going to change the world. We're going to have another great conversation shortly, so stay tuned.